Welcome back to the Capitol Seat. Chuck Kelly here. We have a special guest, Darryl Murphy, a guy with over 25 years in the real estate game. Went from being a broker to an investor, and now he's part of a team that has over $90 million under management and 6,500 units. Darryl, thank you for coming on, speaking to us, giving us the insight into your world, and we can't wait to hear what you got to say today.
Hey, well, thank you for having me, man. It's truly a pleasure to be on your show.
Yeah, man, for sure, man. So we were talking a little bit before, and I've talked to you before, man. But just give us, a little input of what you were doing before real estate, right? And then
Right.
what led you down this path now.
So, what was I doing before real estate? I was in. I was. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, right? So, coming from Brooklyn, New York, uh, being married and everything, I went into the military,
Mm-hmm.
served 10 years in the Army, and then after I got out, that's when I started. I'm gonna say, started my real estate career
Okay.
because I don't know, depending on your audience, some people may remember Carlton Sheets back in the day. So, but once I got out the military, man, I started looking at real estate. But I did go to nursing school and stuff like that. But it was real estate, and I mean, it was being in the military and after getting out, just um, looking at what else, you know, what else can I do, besides nursing and stuff like that. I was really looking ahead, believe it or not. Back then, my mind was going, you know, looking at the future.
Yeah, man. So what made real estate that vehicle for you? What was going? I know you mentioned the guy. But, what was going on around that time that you knew, okay, real estate was going to be the staple for my future.
You know something? Um, what it was back then, it wasn't about commercial.
Mm-hmm.
It was more fix and flip. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
When I got a taste of, I'm just gonna say, of investing in real estate. One, I didn't want to do that fix and flip thing. It never been a part of me. I just didn't want to do it. But 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 having that experience back then, going to some of the classes and stuff like that, I knew I wanted real estate. I knew I wanted real estate,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't want to do the fix and flip. I really didn't.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just that taste, uh, of I guess I saw the bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the bigger picture, but didn't know nothing about what what real estate really was about.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah, man. And that's like conclusive to like what I'm going to limit, over 50% of the world, maybe even more, think now to this day, right? They think about real estate and they even think about, either you're, a broker or a mortgage guy and you're selling loans or you're selling a home, or they're thinking about the fix and flip, with all these TV shows that are jumping out nowadays,
yeah,
30-day
yeah,
home, dream home. So they're thinking about that. And they're like, all right, to get into real estate, all I have to do is, buy a distressed property, fix it up and sell it. And that's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to find
yeah,
the property. It's a lot of capital to, renovate the property. It's a lot of capital to do all of this just to sell it or to rent it. Now you got to
right.
tenants. When they don't know there's a whole nother side of this world where, you can syndicate, you can invest in larger scale apartments, right? You don't
Right,
need your own
exactly.
money. You don't need your own money. You don't have to be the expert in everything. You just need a team. You just need to know the people that can do it. And
Right.
you can take down multi-million-dollar properties with less stress than you would be flipping that home for a couple $1,000 profit when you can be
Yeah,
cash flowing for years, right?
yeah.
All right. So so you knew that fixing and flipping wasn't your thing. So of course that led you to commercial, right? So how did you start getting into that first property? Right. Tell us about
Okay.
that first property and that first journey for you.
Okay. So my first property was 208 units.
Mm-hmm.
That was my very first property. Now, let me tell you what happened. So let me just go back just a little bit.
For sure.
Once I got out the military, I went and I started looking at real estate. That's like I said, going back to Carlton Sheets time and stuff like that. But I went and I wound up going to nursing school, got my license, and during that time, I wound up getting sick, right? So I wound up getting sick and being stuck at home. And I had to do something, really. I had to do something. But so I wound up starting my own business, getting into being a travel agent. And I did that for a long time. I mean, a long time. Then after I got better, because I wound up getting I had kidney disease. So I wound up getting a kidney transplant. After getting the transplant and being home for a long time, started my own travel. I remember I started my own travel business. I did that for a long time. I said to my wife, I said, I want to get back into real estate because I had stopped doing real estate for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So when I came back, I went and got my license. I got my license and started working as a residential agent and that was like 7 years ago. Started working as a residential agent. I was like, okay, I'm a residential agent, but I knew still this still wasn't quite what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
But I started getting the experience. I started as a residential agent, I noticed I would see these guys come in and out of the office, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would talk to them. They would tell me, man, they were in commercial. And I was like, really? I said, okay, I want to know more about this.
Mm-hmm.
About this commercial thing. And as I was going through that first year of being a residential agent, I got turned on to my mentor at that time back then, and wound up going to a RIA meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And this gentleman was up there talking about commercial multifamily, man. And he was walking through the process and all of that. Man, you're talking about something that went off in my head. It was like, boom. I was like, wait a minute. I said, that's it. I said, I want to do it. Man, I was so excited, man. I came home and told my wife, I said, we're going to the boot camp. I said, we're going to the boot camp. Went to went to the boot camp. It was a 3-day boot camp.
Mm-hmm.
Went to the boot camp, and when we got back, and let me tell you something, I wound up going to that boot camp like 3 times. That's how much I loved it. Seriously.
Mm-hmm.
I went 3 times. I didn't have to, but I went 3 times. But so when I got back from that boot camp, I went and spoke to my team leader at the real estate office, and I said, I want to go into the commercial division. Turned me on to the district manager, the regional director, and I got into the commercial side of things. And that's when, with the knowledge that I had received from the boot camp, going into that commercial division,
Mm-hmm.
man, it opened the door. Now, once I did that, I was hopping, right out of the boot camp and everything. I'm looking around for property, and I was everywhere, man. I was all over the place. Almost, I'm gonna say I was, and I could prove it, man. I was like in every state looking for a property. And my mentor said to me, he said, as long as you keep bouncing around, you're never going to get a deal. And I was like, okay. I still didn't get it, man. I still didn't get it. And I was still, but then eventually something hit me. Yo, get it together. And that's when I started narrowing my markets down, and I started focusing. I really started focusing. Okay, where do I want to be? And I wind up, I remember that day too, boy. I wind up picking Tulsa, Oklahoma
Mm-hmm.
for my market. I didn't want to invest in Jersey where I was living. Pick Tulsa, Oklahoma. And once I got focused and narrowed my market, that was it. That's when that first deal came.
So let's pause right there for a second, man. So you identified Tulsa, Oklahoma as your market. So take the
Yep.
audience through that process of identifying that market. What are the metrics? What was the thought processes of
Mm-hmm,
going
mm-hmm,
around choosing your
mm-hmm.
market?
So now, and I'm glad you asked that question because I still wasn't sure. Still didn't know what to really look for. Yes, listen, I was taught I wanted you should have population growth, you should have job growth, the regular things. But I'm gonna tell you on that first day, I really still didn't know. I would ask other investors, like, what do you look for? When you pick in a market, and oh yeah, everybody you ask is going to say, oh yeah, population growth and this, that, and the other. But I still wasn't for sure. I still wasn't. But I knew, enough to know that Tulsa, Oklahoma, it wasn't that far from Oklahoma City,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and at that time it was a slow market, but it was enough for me to say, I know I could get there, but I still didn't quite know exactly what to look for. And I would like to, as we could proceed through, I would like to explain what made me still continue to search because I still wasn't for sure. And I'm gonna tell you, and but I knew I had to find. I knew I had to be in a market where, yeah, there was going to be growth, there was going to be this, there was going to be that, and I wound up picking Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Okay. So now you picked Tulsa, Oklahoma, and as you were saying, so you found that first
Mm-hmm.
deal. I think you said 208 units. Now let's talk about that. What
Correct.
was that property? How did you source it, and what did you learn from it?
So, wow, I learned a lot from that deal, and the reason why I learned a lot from that deal is because in real estate or in anything, there's always a process
Mm-hmm.
that exists. I don't care what you do. There's a process to every single thing. And there's definitely process in commercial multifamily real estate. So what is this process that I'm talking about? Well, the process is you're gonna build it, you're gonna build a relationship with brokers first, right? You're gonna build that relationship with brokers. Then you're gonna have them send you properties. Then you're gonna underwrite the properties. Now, once you underwrite the property and you find a property, then you're gonna submit. You're gonna go through your due diligence, submit your LOI,
Mm-hmm.
and pray that it gets accepted, right?
Absolutely.
So once it gets accepted, the next phase starts. The rest of the process. Well, this is where I was I was so excited to have my first deal. I skipped a lot of the process.
Mm.
And by me skipping some of the process, I learned one, don't skip the process, follow the process. So let's break this down.
Mm-hmm.
What do I mean by that? I got it under contract. And in the contract, and in the LOI, as it was put into a contract, there in majority of contracts, there's a piece in there that says your due diligence will not start until you receive a certain documents. Once you get all your deliverables, then once you get all your deliverables, then your physical due diligence will start. Then you will fly out to the place to do the actual due diligence on the property, right? But I didn't. I skipped the process. Didn't get all of the deliverables, and my wife and I wound up uh, going out to Tulsa, doing the physical due diligence. And I didn't even have the all of the deliverables. That's number one. So I skipped the process, skipped steps that you really need to observe.
Yeah.
Okay. Plus, during that time, right, I was building a connection with investors. It was a particular group of investors that they were like they wanted to do business with me. And there's a process to that. Vetting people, making sure that they are legit and everything. Again, skipping the process, I wind up on the day of me flying out to go to Tulsa. The investors that were supposed to be with me to back me, they pulled out.
Ouch.
So I learned, and that was because, again, skipping the process. I didn't vet these people. I didn't take the time to really do my homework. Who are these people? And my wife kept saying, Darryl, something's just not right. Something's not right. And I'm like, and I'm agreeing too, man. I'm like, yo, I said, yeah, you're absolutely correct. But let me tell you what I did do. The day before me flying out to Tulsa, I had said to my, because they kept saying, Darryl, they kept changing things about wanting to be partnered. They kept adding this. They wanted to do this. And I was like, oh boy, this is not going to work. So the day before me flying out to Tulsa, my wife and I had a gut feeling. Said something's going to happen. I said to my wife, I said, if they pull out of this deal, we will immediately jump on the phone and call every single investor that we know.
So let me so these partners, were these like GPs, other general partners, or were these like actual LPs, investors?
They were I'm going to say they were money partners.
Okay, I get you.
They were they were supposed to bring the capital.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the day you told your wife, the day before you had the gut feeling, and it was a good feeling because they did end up pulling out, right? So now what? The day before
they end up pulling out. So we hit the phones, man. We hit the phone, and we called all investors that we knew, and one of the investors said, "Hey, Darryl, don't worry, I got your back. Go ahead and go ahead and get your due diligence done and stuff like that." So I had another investor that came in to back me on the deal, on that particular deal. But the reason why I'm telling that particular story, these two stories, and I want your audience to know there's a process to everything. Don't skip the process. Don't let no one rush you to where you start, all right, maybe I could skip this step here and jump over here. No, don't do it. Follow the process. Even if you wind up losing the deal, then you just lose the deal. There's more deals to come. Okay. Don't skip the process.
Yeah. Don't be in a rush to get your first deal, because that first deal could be horrible. Now you're messed up for the rest of your life, right? The rest of your investment life.
Exactly.
You're stuck here, you're stuck in debt. You can't pull any more investors. You can't pull out the deal. So that process. So let me ask you this, man. So when you were skipping, these processes, as you were saying, was it just pure excitement, that you were just happy that you got that deal? Or was it, you were
Yeah.
still in the transition of learning? So you were just happy you got it. Okay. So did this
Number one, well,
go on?
so one, I was happy that I had a deal,
Of
right?
course.
Happy that I had a deal, still new, you know. But I take it, I take it as it was. There was a reason why this happened, and it was to prove to me. God was proving to me that it could be done. Because the one thing I didn't tell your audience, right? One, I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, Bed-Stuy area, and back then, if you know about Bed-Stuy, it was called back then. It was called Bed-Stuy Do or Die,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, if you taking a young black boy from Brooklyn, New York, Bed-Stuy, and now I'm in a position to where I'm about to acquire a 208 unit apartment complex. Come on, man. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that part wasn't in on the radar,
That wasn't in the
right?
script.
Exactly. But when I went through boot camp and everything and learning everything, I have a strong faith, and no matter what, I believe in God. And for
Absolutely.
me, there was a purpose behind this. And the purpose was to show me that this could be done. You, little black boy from Brooklyn, New York, this could be done. And sure enough, and I'm gonna tell you something. We never closed on that deal. We wound up pulling out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna tell you, you think something like that would have said, "Holy smoke, I ain't doing that no more. I'm done. I ain't doing that no more." Let me tell you something. It wasn't like that. Some man, there was fire up under my behind, bro. I'm
Mm-hmm.
telling you, God showed me it could be done. Now, since I done gave you a little bit to feed on,
Mm-hmm.
take it and run. I just showed you it could be done, and that's what I did.
Mm-hmm.
I thank God for that. He showed me what could be done.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And possibly, one, not only did he show you it could have been done, but possibly pulled you out of a pretty bad situation if it had
Right.
close, right? So, all
Oh
right.
man. If I
So
could tell you the story behind that, but I'll let you go ahead first. Go ahead with your question. Because there's a story behind that too.
go ahead. We got time, man.
We
What's
got
the
okay.
story behind it?
So we were under contract. My wife and I was there. Another team member was coming out. The rest of my team from the property management company was there, and we were walking the property day one. We was walking the units. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that evening we was back in the hotel, and I was like, boy, is this the right thing? You know how it goes through your mind. So so I was saying my prayers that night. My wife and I, we were saying our prayers, and I said to God, I said, Lord, if this not the one, you got to tell me. I said, but you can't be giving me no parables because I ain't good with trying to figure out riddles. You just got to tell me straight up. No, yes. Right? And sure enough, that next day, when the team came together, day two, we walked. Wife was inside the property management's office with the rest of the team, and I got the phone call, and my wife said, "Come back to the office, stop everything." I said, "Okay." So I told the team member. My wife said, "Stop everything. Let's go back." So, and that's when she said, "Darryl, this not the one. We got to stop because this where again me skipping the process, and I would have known this if I would not have skipped the process. But this particular owner didn't have nothing. He didn't have no systems in place, no leases. There was only one manila envelope that had a money order inside. We didn't know who was living inside the units. it was a 208 unit project. Half of them they were empty. They were gutted, man. So the team got together and said, "Down, this isn't the one." And that's when I called the shots. I said, "Thank you, Lord. You just told me what I wanted to hear." They said, "No, stop." And that was it. So we wound up backing out of that one. That was my very first one. We wound up backing out of it. But I learned so much in that process, man. I learned a lot. I'm telling you, the main thing is don't skip the process.
Okay. Yeah, 100%. Don't skip the process. Do that due diligence. So so the more you say about it, the more you tell about it, I'm glad you didn't close on that deal, Darryl. It did not sound like it would be feasible.
Yeah.
And especially for the first deal, it sounds like a lot of trouble. You said there was no leases. One person had a manila envelope. Then you got to go as far as tracking down these people, seeing how much they pay for rent, and they can lie to you. They can tell you, "Hey, we only paid $300," and you have no way of disputing that, right? But then half the units are gutted. It would have came with a lot of things.
It was, and you're absolutely correct. It would have came with a lot. As we were walking these units, man, we were like, we had told them not to tell them like who we are. Okay. So we found out that no one even knew that, because you're supposed to inform the residents that someone is coming through, right? Nobody knew we were coming through. You always take on, you don't want the tenants to know that the place is being sold. So if they say like who you are, usually you say, "Well, I'm just working with the insurance company just to take some photos and stuff like that." But they didn't even tell the people nobody was coming through, man. We were going through apartments, man. People had their glots out. We went into one apartment, man. That glot was right there.
Wow.
I told the whole team, "Yo, stop, back up out of here." Because I don't want nothing to come up missing. And you know what I'm saying? I don't want nothing come up missing. Someone took a Glock. I said, "Yo, back up on out of this." Right? Went into another one. And the guy was like, the young guy was like nervous. Like, "Do you got to go in that room?" I was like, "Yeah, we got to go in all the room." Like, "You got to go in that room right there?" I'm like, what's in? I'm like, "What's in the room, man? Like, what's wrong, man?" He said, "Okay." And I said, "I'm just taking pictures. That's it." When I went in and I looked, and I look at the floor where the closet is, and you could see the purple light. And I was like, "What's in that closet?" He was like, "You got to open that door." My man had a weed tree up in that piece, man. He was
the first two doors you open, you see guns. Second door, you see a weed stash. Yeah, that wasn't it.
Oh,
that wasn't the place.
You told me something that had me. I was laughing. I was like, "Okay, all right."
All right. Okay. So you didn't close on that one. So what was the next one, right? As you said, some people can get discouraged, right? And you learned from that. You moved on. So when was the next?
So the next one came, 2 years, I think, 2 years later. 104 units in Augusta, Georgia.
Nice.
That was
good area.
Was the next one. Yeah. So 104 units in Augusta, Georgia. Had the opportunity of working with a fine team and everything, man. We got that. We got it under contract, closed on it, and the plan was a 3 to 5 year hold. Man, we wind up selling that property in less than a year. Well, we closed on the 13th month, but everything went so well and was in our favor that 9 months we said, "Let's sell it, let it go." And we more than doubled our investors' money and everything, man.
Phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
So tell us, Darryl, what is it that you do best for your company, right? Where do you fit in this whole syndication scheme with your team?
You know something? Um, I like underwriting. No, correction, correction. I love underwriting.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. I love underwriting, but I love teaching. I love taking my journey and and teaching others, showing others. Don't make don't don't make the mistakes and stuff like that. The one thing, in my coaching program, I'm hands on. I believe in being hands on, but it's I believe in. I just love just teaching, and I love underwriting and stuff like that, man. And yeah, so and that's how I got into the GOB, being one of the board members of the GOB network.
Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about that network, right? So what exactly is it? And I see, Acquisition Summit
Yeah.
here in my home city, Phoenix, Arizona. So what's going on there?
So the GOB network is an educational platform that provides network and support for investors, right? So what does that mean? I just said a whole mouthful of stuff. So what does that mean? That means you have a lot of new investors out here. They're looking for a deal. They want to get their first deal done. And and there are a lot of programs, but they cost so much money. It's expensive, man. So I dished out a lot of money for the training that I've gone through. But with the GOB network, we provide we we provide that training, that education and stuff. It's free to join the GOB, and you could go. You could come to the different get the different trainings and get the help that you need, and get the support, get the back end and stuff like that. That comes with it, and when so I got to go back just a tad bit.
Mm-hmm.
When I got into commercial, and I was and after the boot camp, after my deal, I think it was there. I started teaching, believe it or not, I started teaching about commercial early on after I left the residential side
Mm-hmm.
and got into the commercial side. When I left and got into the commercial division, man, I was teaching about investing in commercial. I came out of the boot camp, it was fresh. And there was also a book that I had read by Gary Keller. And I was teaching, and as I was progressing, my classes were getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the founder of the GOB, the creator at that time, he was creating it, Jim Biggs, he had approached me and asked if they're going to be a part of the GOB and help him make it grow. He saw my vision and I saw his vision, and it was parallel. We was walking down the streets together, and I said, "Heck yeah, right?
Yeah.
Heck yeah!" And after that, that was it, man. You know, so I'm glad that had met Jim Biggs and joined the GOP network and become one of the board members and stuff like that, and one of the co-founders of the GOP, and take it to where it is. And so and now that's where you see the acquisition summit is. And again, it's everything. If you ever come to my masterminds, you will find out that it's all about education for me. I want to teach. And that's what it's about. So the acquisition summit, I got with my partner during my journey. I met a young lady. Her name is Alicia Milton, and we hit it off, man. We talked. She was in commercial. I'm in commercial. We saw the path. We saw the light, and we took off together. And I had said to her, I said, we about coming together and doing a 3-day mass training. All it's going to be for day one. underwriting. Day 2, probably towards day 3, submitting LOIs, and we're going to take this thing. We're going to and we're going to teach and get a deal done. We're going to submit LOIs on that 3rd day, and we're taking something down. That's the whole purpose. So yeah, that's what it's about for me, man. It's about education, and I just, if you're going to put out $30,000-$40,000 to join a mentorship program or something like that, I'm going to tell you, hold tight. Take that money and put it in a deal. That's what I'm going to take. Take the money, put it in a deal, because, that's what we're about at the GOB. We'd rather for you to take that 20, 30, 40 grand and put it into a deal instead of putting it into someone's pocket.
Good point, man. Good point. And I know you're what? It's a couple thousand members you guys have in the GOB?
Yeah, we have over 1,300 members right now. I think we're close to 1,400, but we got over 1,300 members in the GOB.
Yeah, that's a pretty fair amount. So, all right. So teaching, and then the other half is underwriting. So take us through a quick glimpse of, your underwriting process, right? And at what point do you, of course you don't, thoroughly underwrite every property, but at what point when you have identified a property, are you going to, fully underwrite that thing?
Okay. So some may agree with me, some may not. But the one thing I don't do a back of the napkin type thing.
Okay.
And the reason why is because when someone say, okay, I'm gonna do a back of the napkin, if the numbers work out, right? If the numbers work out, if the numbers look good on the back of the napkin, then I'll do a full underwrite. Okay, that's what some people say, not me. That's what some people say. But I believe, and what I teach is, we're going to underwrite it completely, because you don't know. Just because you do a back of the napkin, you say, "Oh man, that don't look good." Pass. I believe that if you go through the process, you may find that, holy smoke, wait a minute, we could do this. We could do that. Because underwriting isn't just about just inputting the data. No, underwriting is about knowing what your input, right? And another thing I teach too is, I really don't care what the seller is asking for. I really don't. I mean, yes, we're going to read the OM. We're going to do the underwrite. What I'm concerned about is, what do the numbers look like for the investor? My concern is the investors, not the seller. So yeah, you can ask for $33 million, but when I underwrite it, I'm gonna underwrite it. I may come in at $27 million, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to submit an LOI for that $27 million. And with that LOI, if it's more than a 5% delta between what the seller wants and what I have, then I will submit a cover letter explaining my underwrite. How is it that I came up with this price? Okay. And I'm going to submit that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the only thing you can have, there's several things that can happen. One, he say yes, he says no, or he come back with a counter. But the whole thing about underwriting is not just putting in the numbers. It's about knowing the numbers. It's about what can you do with that underwrite. Do you understand? You see what I'm talking about? It's not. I'm not just throwing numbers into an Excel sheet. Oh nope, that doesn't work. No, let's look at this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's evaluate it.
Mm-hmm.
And so forth. So I just teach that underwrite it. Now now, if it's okay with you, let me just go back just a little bit, because I said to you early on, I wanted to explain to you about, because you asked me what is it that when do I know about, like, what type of market, because you said, Dad, well, what do you look for, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that
for sure.
early on, I was all over. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, I was all over the place early on, right? But now I'm not all over the place. Now I focus on a particular market. But when an investor asks me, what made you pick that market? Now I'm educated enough to say, and this is what I say right here, I didn't pick that market. My real estate market analysis picked that market. Because now the one thing that I had a hard time with, and now I'm going to correlate me being a nurse, because
Hmm.
I went to nursing school. Now I'm going to correlate me being a nurse to me picking my market. As a nurse, I have metrics. And if there's a nurse listening, a nurse knows what I'm talking about, or a doctor. We have metrics that we go by. I know when your blood pressure is high. I know when it's too low. I know when your blood sugar is too high. I know when your blood sugar is too low. I know that because I'm a nurse.
Hmm.
And I needed that guidance for me to pick my market.
Yeah.
And sure enough, man, I went and took the course by Neil Bauer. And that's when, man, it really all came together. Because now there's 5 metrics that I look for in the city, 5 metrics that I look for in the neighborhood. And now I have my parameters, just like I have parameters to know when the blood pressure is too high, when the blood pressure is too low, when your heart rate is tachycardic. Okay. I know now. And that's now what I go by.
Okay.
So I just don't haphazardly say, oh yeah, I'm going to be in the Houston market. No, does that market meet the criteria that's on my real estate market analysis form? If it doesn't, move it out the way. I don't even want to look at it. Just move it. And if it's good, if the 5 metrics on the city is good, let's go. Okay, that's good. Hold on to that one. And now let's look at let's look at the neighborhood. Let's get into the nitty gritty. Okay. And if it meets those 5 metrics, or if that neighborhood meets those 5 metrics, keep the neighborhood. Now let's start talking to the brokers. Let's start looking for properties in that particular neighborhood. So now, yes, I do have a metric
Hmm.
that I go by. I have the high, the low.
Hmm.
And by me being a nurse, that pulled it all together for me, man, for real.
Yeah. So I mean, what are some of those metrics, right? Are you talking, of course, the job growth, talking the population,
Yes,
you talking,
yes,
the actual class of the property, crime rate, we're talking the actual job sectors that are, within a 5-10 mile radius, where these people are working, what's their income in these neighborhoods? Can I jack those
yeah,
rents?
yeah,
Just making sure all that stuff can flow, right?
exactly. And that was it. Because when I was coming when I was involved, when I was first, let me back up, um when I first got into this, I didn't have that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Oh yeah, I knew, yeah, population growth, household median income, job growth. Yeah, I knew that. But I didn't know exactly the metrics. I didn't know, okay, that's too low, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't go with it because it's too low. I didn't know that. But now, heck yeah, man.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
And
Now I know. There's a
before
high
you
low.
knew that,
Yeah.
I just thought about it again. So before you knew that, you pretty much ended up at the stash house, right? You ended up at the drug house, but
Yeah.
you knew enough to pull out of that. And I love it, man. I love it. So, and
Mhm.
I love how not a lot of people are saying this, but okay, yeah, you did your market research on the city. But then let's dive into the neighborhood. Where
Yes.
okay, so the city can look good, but everyone knows, if you live anywhere, especially a big city, the
Mhm.
neighborhood block by block basis, that's that's, night and day, right? That's going to make
Correct.
you or break you where you are, right? You can live on one side of the tracks and you have high end homes, you have high income. You go to the other side of those tracks, right? Low end homes, low income, poverty, crime. So
Absolutely.
you need to know where
Absolutely.
you are. You need to know where you are.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
And it's funny that you mentioned that, Shaka, because I was Jim and I was out in Houston this weekend. Friday, we got there Friday and Saturday. We was out there for a conference. Plus we was out there checking on the property that we had closed on out there and that he also has out there. But while we were there, we toured a property in Houston.
mhm.
And I submitted the LOI on that today. It's a 250 unit asset. But to show you, when we went out there, you can actually visualize. You could see the borderline. Yeah, this side of the street, that side of the street, thumbs up, right? We was actually able to see it in this particular apartment complex that we were touring. We was driving the neighborhood because I always like to drive the neighborhood. Always, always. I want to drive the neighborhood. I want to see what's there. And if it, the, if someone would have, if someone, and this is the important thing here. If you are investing outside of the area where you live, you got to get on a bird to go out there. You better have someone good that's boots on the ground, that knows that neighborhood. Because when Jim and I went out there, we drove the neighborhood, and something didn't set with me on the median household income for this particular property. If you look at Crexy, it was telling you that the median household income was 32,000. Now that falls below my metric, because my metric is 40 to 70. And it hit 32. Any other time, I would have dished it away. Okay. But we went out there and we were going out there for the conference and also to see the property. So I do have a team. Believe me, I do have a team in Houston. Yes, we would have caught it most likely anyway. But when we went out there to show people how important it is, when we went out there and saw where this property was located, we automatically said, "There's no way in the heck, man, that this property has a median household income of 32,000." When you looked at the map, the way they had this property broken down, they had the property in this map. They had the property, and then if you look at the borderline of the property, it was the property, and guess what? Guess what was right beside the property? This large cemetery. Now, since when dead people start paying rent? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Dead people don't pay rent. And that's what brought that median household income down. So now, by us going out there and seeing the dividing lines, seeing where this property is, what I did, I came back and said, that's false. Let's look at this property. Let's do a deep dive. Because we saw that it was right beside some more. If we went to the left, if we went outside of the border of where that property was, there was properties to the left, and of course we didn't go across this major road right here, because across that street, that median household income, according to their map, which was a little jacked up too, was 52,000. Okay, and then the property and across the street, which was included with the property, it was a school, right? A big school. I'm not talking about just a little school. This was a big school, big land, had a lot of land. And I'm like, how's it that you putting this property between a cemetery and all the school, and you talking about 32? It's not being compared to nothing. There's no way. So we wound up doing our own research and stuff like that, and come to find out the median household income was actually running like 53,000, which fell between the metrics that we look for and so forth. So yeah, we wound up going for the property, and we submitted the LOI, and we'll know within probably 24, 48 hours whether or not the LOI is accepted or whatever.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's a huge difference from 20 comparing it to a graveyard in the school to figuring out it's actually
Yeah.
mid-50, right? So right in between your threshold of what you're looking for to push rents or value add and all that type of stuff. So
Yeah.
so even when you're doing those metrics and when you're underwriting, what are some key things you're looking for in your underwriting in the owner's T12 and their rent roll that you can look out for either putting in your template or removing from the template?
So there's several. One, we're going to look at. Of course, you got to look at your income. You're going to look at your expenses.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, what exactly does that mean? I'm going to look at the rents. I'm going to look what the average rents are. That's what I'm going to look for. So let's say we got 740 square feet, 2 bed, 1 bath. And let's say I'm just throwing numbers out now, everybody. This is just numbers, right? 700 square feet, 2 bed, 1 bath. 800 square feet, 2 bed, 2 bath. 900 square feet, 3 bed, 2 bath. Right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to look for the average rents and the 700, the average rent, 800, the average rent, and 900. Right. But then I'm also going to look for the trend in each of those. Okay, so and on the 700s, I want to see if the rents are flat, if they're if they're if they're going up, or if they're declining. I want to see. I'm going to pick at least on the T on the rent roll. I want to go back at least a year and see how this rent is doing. Mm-hmm. Now, once I get into January, because I'm looking at the latest rent roll, and once I see November, once I get say 6 months, and I'm starting to move forward, if I see that the trend is going up, yeah, that's what we want, right? If you see that the trend is going down, I'm gonna ask questions. Why is this rent going down?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I look for rent. So when it comes to that, it's the way that we're going to put in the metric for the rents and stuff like that. Then you look at your other income. Okay, with your other income, it's like being a forensic scientist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Seriously,
diving in there.
It's like being it's like being a forensic scientist. You got to look at each of the line items, right? If you see, let's say that late fees, let's go with late fees. All of a sudden, let's say you have this big, huge number of late fees, right? We don't accept that. We're not going to include that on our side of the income, because we don't want late fees.
No.
Right. So we look at, we do a line item check on what's on the T12, because a lot of times you may see something, a big income, but it's not really a real income. It's not something that you're going to keep in when you take over that property. You know what I'm saying? Then let's look at the expenses. Okay, what is, maybe something is being exaggerated. Okay, so you may see an expense that shouldn't be there. Let me say that, like an expense that shouldn't be there, and you're like, oh, that should not be there, right? So we look at that and stuff like that. But then with the model that I use, we also look at, if we're going to do any type of renovation, what percentage are we going to do? When are we going to start? I try to get as detailed as possible, so we could get as close as we can to that accurate number,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And just adding on to that, like, even other anomalies, like, if you're looking at, the rent progression, as you're saying, and, if you see one unit is, $400 more than the rest of the units are averaging, and all that does is just pull up the average rent, that's something you probably should take out your underwriting, right? Unless there's, let's say there's about 7 or 10 of them, and you see there's a trend that they're bumping those rents up. But you see that one,
Exactly.
there are a couple tricks that they can play in their T12s on their rent rolls to make the numbers look a little bit better. Because remember, they're trying to sell. So when you're looking at these OMs, and you're pretty much these OMs, and you're seeing these pro forma numbers, don't pay no mind to it.
Yeah.
Their job is to sell you that property. Your job is to figure
Thank
out
you.
why I shouldn't buy this property, right? So really
Thank you.
dive deep in there to realize what the process is. Okay, I like it, man. So tell us about the recent deal you just closed. By the way, congratulations on that. I believe it was a mix of multifamily and storage units, correct?
Correct. It was in the property is located in Dayton, Texas, 24 units with 42 self-storage units. We closed on that in December. And let me tell you about this property. I'm gonna tell you, this property, matter of fact, yeah, this property, a diamond in the rough, man. This was a diamond in the rough. And so how did I find this property? Let me explain that first. So within the GOB, we had at the time we had a challenge going on. It was called the USDA challenge. Now it's being rebranded as the Goya challenge. And during this time, what the parameters were, we were looking for properties in the US in a USDA eligible area. Because the goal was to try to get that property and put it under USDA. Okay. So by me being an agent, by me being a commercial agent with KW, I have CoStar, stuff like that. So I went on CoStar, right? And I started looking for properties outside of the urban area, outside of it. So, and you want to get into those rural areas, right? Because that's where you're gonna find USDA. So this particular property popped up being for sale.
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Whoa, this property is right outside of Houston." I said, I was going to be in Houston. I said, "So let's go out there. Let's go out there and check this property out." Man, that was the best thing that could have happened. I got off the plane, picked up the car, drove out there to Dayton. And as I was driving out there to Dayton, the only thing I saw, brother, was infrastructure, retail being built, homes being built. I saw money coming into the city. I said, "Holy smoke!" They were putting in new rails, a new the Grand Parkway. I said, "Wait,
Yeah,
wait!"
this
I
this,
said,
this town's
"Holy
about to
smoke!"
blow, man.
Exactly. So now I get to the property. The property, the rents were under market. The storage unit rents were under market, and I was like, "Yo, I want this property here." So got the property. Got the took the tour of the property. We submitted the team and I. We submitted the LOI on the property. We got the property under contract. Now remember, now the whole goal was to try to get a USDA loan.
Mm-hmm.
Come to find out, this property had a loan assumption. It had to be a loan assumption. We couldn't do USDA.
Now, can you
Got the
explain to
prop.
the people what this USDA loan is?
Yeah, a USDA loan. With the USDA loan, you could get lower interest rate on a USDA loan, and you could also get a longer term,
Mm-hmm.
a longer amortization. You could get 40 years, right? So it really makes it really puts you in a position to where you can have good returns. Now, the catch is though, and this is what we learned from this. If we would have done the USDA, we would not have been able to raise our rents because USDA had a cap on the rents.
Mm-hmm.
See, so we had a decision: either do it or go market. And when we saw we couldn't raise the rents, it wasn't. We said we're gonna go market. but we had to do a loan assumption. We had to do a loan assumption. Now, at the time we did the loan assumption on this property,
Mm-hmm.
the yield maintenance, that is for those who don't know what I'm talking about, when I say the yield maintenance, the prepayment penalty, I'm gonna call it the prepayment penalty to keep it simple. It was like 200 grand. That was the prepayment penalty for getting out of this loan when we signed up. So we were going to just assume the debt. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We had a good interest. I think it was like 4 point something on the interest rate or something like that. Right. But during the assumption process, it was taking forever. 6 months rolled around and we still doing this loan assumption. Oh my gosh, man. They were dragging their feet. It was 6 months later. And we asked them, can you give us an idea when we're going to close? They couldn't give us no idea when we were going to close.
Mm-hmm.
So the seller said to me, he said, Darryl, he said, what's your plan B? I said, plan B, go agency. I said, that's plan B. Now, remember what I said. The yield maintenance was 200,000. It was really a little more. It was a little over 200,000. But due to the fact that the market was shifting, and I want everyone to understand this, due to the fact that the market was shifting and interest rates were starting to climb,
mm-hmm.
the yield maintenance was starting to come down. Did y'all hear me?
Mm-hmm.
So we got that property in December was the 6 months. So count 6 months back, everyone. Count 6 months back. In December, we went to the lender and asked, what is the yield maintenance on this loan now? The yield maintenance had dropped from over $200,000 to less than $60,000. You hear me?
Huge difference.
We say, yeah. Yeah, we say, yep, let's go ahead and get the agency debt on this thing. Got the agency debt, man, through CPC with Natalie Dumont. We closed in less than 45 days.
Nice. Well, I guess that waiting was a little bit of blessing in disguise, man. Just hold on. let me work some magic.
That was no disguise. You know that was no disguise. That was a blessing, brother. That was no disguise. That was a blessing.
Man, it was, man.
Seriously.
That's crazy. It definitely worked out in your favor, man. It's like it's like night and day from your first deal to this last one that you closed, right? It started with a blessing that, hey, don't do this, please. To the, hey, just wait a little bit longer. We'll make this deal a little bit sweeter. And it was. So that's awesome, man. Well, Darryl, that concludes, all the questions I had today. You definitely shed a lot of light on really being thorough, and really honing in and focusing on the actual research, the process, and the vetting of the underwriting, the deal, and everything itself, right? So let us know, how can we reach you? How can someone get in contact with you? And yeah, just go from there, right? You have your coaching program.
Okay.
Let them know.
Okay. So, if anyone would like to get in contact with me, you can reach me on Facebook, right? Darryl Murphy Baynard, Baynard, or you can reach me on LinkedIn, Darryl Murphy Senior, which is SR, Darryl Murphy SR. And when you do reach out to me, just put in there how you heard about me. All right. Because a lot of people reach out to me and, a lot of times, they be trying to sell me stuff. So a lot of times I just delete people. But I don't want to delete no one, so please, just put in, I heard you on Shaka Kelly's podcast and so forth. That way I won't delete you and we can connect and stuff like that. And I'll be more than happy to listen. I'm about education. I'd be more happy to talk to people. I love it. And people can even come to my commercial multifamily mastermind every Tuesday at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So, and reach out to me for that, and I'll send you the link. And that's free too. But that's referral based, so at least you get to know me. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, sweet. And I'll put all that information there in the link to make sure people have this way to click and reach out to you a lot quicker. But again, Darryl, thanks for coming on today, man. I appreciate it. I enjoyed the conversation. A lot of good laughs, a lot of good knowledge, man. You enjoy the rest of your day, man. Again, we appreciate you having us on.
Hey, thank you very much, Shaka. Thank you for having me.
Perfect.